Morning, guys. Thanks for joining me. We'll need a big pillow, something nice and firm. You can use a bolster or a throw pillow, a strap, blocks if you have them, although you can use anything that can kind of prop up the knees, 2 smaller pillows, 2 rolled up towels, some extra little throw pillows, whatever you have. And a blanket's always nice to sit on. All right, so in your upright seated position, sit against as much support as you can. That might mean you're using a chair, and have as much of your body touching other surfaces outside of yourself as possible. Close your eyes. Hands face down. And notice if you did have a sigh as you came to your practice. Notice if the chest had lifted with that bigger inhale. And often when that happens, the belly pushes out with the exhale. So over the next week or so, see if you can notice how many times that might happen a day. How many times do you take that kind of a breath? And you'll notice that it's full in the chest. The chest lifts with the inhale and the belly goes a little poof, pushes out with the exhale. So that's the breath that's associated with overbreathing or with the A word, which we don't like to say. A-N-X. You can fill in the rest of the letters. It's like the scarlet letter A that you can emblazon on your shirt. So noticing those breath patterns, and you might find that your mouth is very slightly open and you're breathing through your nose, but you're also secretly taking breath in through the mouth. So whenever you notice that, go ahead and seal those lips and use an exhale to squeeze the belly. Get a little hold to the belly with that exhale. And the inhale becomes a letting go, the effortless part of the breath. And the exhale is slow, a gentle squeeze. And the inhale is nothing, just a fullness naturally comes into the belly. Go ahead and track that pattern, notice it in your body. And you don't have to take a big volume. In fact, I would encourage you to not be taking in really full, long breaths. The breaths can be slow. They might be short. You want to guide the breath and then just get out of its way. Because if you overmanage the breath, that contributes to the letter A that you would emblazon or embroider on your shirt. So you just do a little management and then hand it over. Like, breath, you know what to do. You're fine. Yoga can inadvertently encourage a kind of excessive overbreathing, almost a hyperventilation with its very, very deep, long inhales and deep, long exhales. So instead, calibrate your effort in the breathing to how much effort there is in the pose. So here, almost no effort. So almost no effort in the breath. And then with very big, heavy upper eyelids, you can just sort of peek out from under your eyelashes and maybe notice a color or a shape that's in front of you. Your eyes are soft and they're quiet. And they're still. And your blink rate is low and slow. And then let your head turn with your eyes, and you can start to notice objects in your view and simply regard them in terms of shapes, like rectangle. Notice colors. Notice the shadow that an object might cast. And again, you can slowly move the head, move the eyes, take in different shapes. I can look at my plant and notice that it looks thirsty. And move on from that. Notice the texture of the floor. Slowly turn your head and look the other way. What do you see? Name it like Sesame Street. And those of you who've been practicing with me for a while here online, my space changes. There might be small changes. There is a change today. You might notice what it is. And you can even look very slowly behind you, even if you're up against a wall. You look behind you, you notice the texture of the wall, different marks, when the couch used to be here, butterflies from a party my daughter had a while ago. And then when you come back to center, and the eyes softly close again, was there that sighing breath, or was it a little different quality of the sigh? There wasn't as much upward pull. You weren't trying to take in more air. It was just a letting go. And maybe you felt that the belly pulled in instead of pushing out on that exhale. And feel the heaviness of your arms, and let your body be a little slouchy, a little less perfect, less effort. And feel the weight of your skin. And the skin is not efforting at all, so it's heavy on the layer of muscles. And the muscles are like, hey, you're leaning. I remember sitting in the back seat with your siblings, and there were 3 of us. We were crowded into the back seat, and we'd go through the cloverleaf exit on the highways, and everyone would lean as hard as they could into us. And I was always in the middle, and I was like, I was the middle child. I am the middle child. Quit leaning. So the skin is leaning heavily on the muscle, and the muscles then are like, well, I'm just going to lean on the bones. And just feel this sink, this experience of doing less. And maybe this posture, this sort of slack seated posture, reminds you of you at a different age, a former age. Maybe you can imagine yourself sitting cross-legged in kindergarten. Maybe you're, preschool, your first time's like, okay, well, I'll sit in a circle. Notice yourself sitting cross-legged in grade school. Notice how your limbs feel more lanky as you imagine yourself getting a little older, junior high, middle school. Up into high school, feeling the potency of your adulthood. And the pushback of so many forces around you trying to contain that, direct that, disempower that. Or maybe imagine yourself in your 20s, sitting cross-legged. Your 30s. And your 40s. And I'm going to stop in the 40s. I'm 47. But I know some of my dear friends with me, we can, the grace and the gift that you've had to continue even further. Maybe we can imagine ourselves, maybe you are in your 50s or 60s or 70s. And if you imagine if you're not there, what's it like to imagine yourself sitting cross-legged? Slack, soft, surrendered. 80s, 90s. Who knows? And there's such a journey and such a shift. Things are shifting. We can feel a shift that where the mind can take us through the power of memory, and where the imagination can take us through the power of imagining and feeling. Notice your breath now. Notice if just letting your mind rest on something else allowed the breath the freedom to become quiet, effortless. The body can do that all by itself. And I'll let the eyelids be heavy as you take a little peek open through slitted eyes. And I can see the light is shifted. And turn your head with your eyes and notice some of those same objects. Do they look a little different? More vivid? More detail? More saturated? Remember to turn your head with your eyes and still have heavy eyelids. And even looking behind you. Very good. So let's shift to hands and knees. And just move carefully and delicately and slowly in any organic shape that you want. Slow motion, nothing's fast. Like you don't even know how you're going to move, and the movement just happens. And allowing pauses. Imagine you're in your body for the first time. What's the desire of the body at this age, on this day, at this moment? And at a certain point, rocking can come in, a shifting forward and a shifting back. And letting the breath generate those movements, even if that means the movements are small or slow or gradual. And pay particular attention to when the breath wants to stop, because that's okay. It can be quite good to reduce that letter A word when the body stops the breathing. It's adjusting some of the chemicals in the bloodstream, recalibrating them, helping you feel that you're getting enough air, because you always, always are. And I've shifted to my forearms. You might stay up with straight arms. You might find yourself resting in child's pose. And if you came down to forearms, we'll gradually push up to straight arms and take that right foot forward. And here's where blocks or even your big pillow could be helpful for your hands, so that this is an easy shape. You might have fists if you're using the pillow, or a block. If you're using blocks or the pillow, have them inside the front leg. And you're still moving organically here. Just soft, easy, lazy. It rained a little bit yesterday. We've had this long, hot streak of weather in the high 80s, low 90s. And the real feel, what that really felt like was we were in the 90s and even close to 100 with the heat index. And that summer rain, it was raining this morning when I walked the dog, 70 degrees out, and it was that warm rain, summer rain. So that's what I mean by lazy. I don't know why that makes me think of weather and heat. Just allowing your body to respond to its environment. Okay, that's probably enough time with the right leg forward. Let's switch and put the left leg forward. If you're using blocks or the pillow, shift them to the inside of the front leg. I'm going to give my knees a little bit of padding. And then a lazy, almost pointless exploration of movement here. I'm an alignment yoga teacher, but I'm also a Gemini. So, ambivalence is sort of the ruling dominant feeling for a lot of my life. But, where you can feel strongly both ways. So I could feel this need for order and alignment and rules, and also have this very deep need for it doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's all carefree, loose, let go, be wild, be free. And I think there's a time for every emotion, feeling, and need in your body. You might not necessarily like it, but there's quite a power in syncing up with what you actually need. And say you're in a setting where you can't act on that fully, you might just sneak it in at 1%. And then we'll come back to regular table on hands and knees, hands in front of the shoulders. Take the knees nice and wide on the blanket or the mat and spread the mat wide with the knees and feel the tone come into the sacrum and the low back. Feel the belly spread. Now I'm just going to let my belly hang, but if you're really flexible in the low back, you'll have to add some tone. Shift forward and back, tiny, lazy, easy movement. And whenever the timing is right for you, wait for that impulse to round the spine, the head lets go, and the sacrum moves back, and the tail dives down towards the floor, forward between the legs, and the nose and the tailbone seek to meet. And the back of the neck gets to really hang here and stretch. And very good. So now we're ready for our first use of the pillow in the belly. So take the pillow or the bolster into the belly. We're kneeling now, and we're going to come into child's pose, pressing this pillow directly into the navel. So if you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, we're not going to do that. Now, when I come into child's pose, that means now the floor is really far away. So some of our other props here, hands on blocks or blocks stacked, can give me a place to rest the head. And let your breath and your muscles and your bones respond to the shape of the pose and the imposition of the pillow. And let your skin be lazy and hang, resting on the muscles. And then let the muscles hang, resting on the bones. Notice if the mouth is slightly open. Can you let the lips touch? Almost coming into like a little pursed, or like you were thinking about, like my dog just lay down in front of me on the mat. I'm going to think about kissing the dog. So there's a little, I think people do this when they pose for pictures, and there's also sorts of memes making fun of it, right? I think it's called duck face. You do a little duck face so the lips are closed and the tongue rests at the roof of the mouth. Feel your jaw let go. And then hands to the floor. Push down into the floor and roll the spine to vertical, but you're using your hands to help. And the neck rolls up slowly until you're looking straight ahead through slitted eyes, and you notice what you see around you. Turning the head with the eyes. And we'll take the pillow off to the side, props off to the side. And let's take some twists from table pose. So we'll turn the right arm, twist the chest to the right arm up and over. And then we'll twist open to the left. We'll just keep switching sides. One arm reaches up. Turn the body. Let the pelvis follow. And go from side to side. Inhaling to open. A little bit of a side plank feeling through the bottom arm. Good. And then right arm straight ahead. Reach it straight forward. And then put it back down, and we'll reach with the left arm. And as you're reaching, it starts to side bend you a little bit. You can take the arm and the hand. So it's reaching straight forward, parallel to the floor. It reaches towards like the opposite corner of the mat. Change sides whenever you want. Push your ribs to the right as your right arm reaches across to the left. One more time on each side. And then we'll walk the hands back to the knees. Lift your knees. You're in a little bit of a squat. And we'll push the legs straight. You're coming into Uttanasana now, standing forward fold. And the feet can come as wide as the mat. And take an elbow frame. You hold opposite elbow with each hand, and then just sway and hang the torso. I'm going to do this very carefully because my low back tends to round a lot. I'm going very slowly because I don't want to overstretch that area. And some of you who have a strong arch in the low back, really hollow the belly with your exhale. Hollow out that space and enjoy the stretch sensations through the sacral area in the low back. Bend the knees in your Uttanasana until your elbow frame rests on the floor. The legs are still nice and wide. They can turn out slightly. And then just shift the weight from side to side. Your legs are holding you up 99%. And the arms are just heavy. Resting on the floor lightly. Lower the butt a little more if you want. So it's like a wide-legged squat. I'm going for an inner thigh stretch. Hang and let go through the shoulders. The arms might need to move a little bit back towards your feet. Allowing the spine to curve so the arms are not efforting. And then push the hands flat into the floor. Push into your feet and your hands. Walk your feet a little bit narrower so they're about outer hip distance. Slide one hand up the shin. Push that hand into the shin as the shin resists. And then same thing with the other hand so that we can flatten the back. You're about Ardha Uttanasana, torso parallel to the floor. Rock from your heels to your ball mounts. Keep rocking forward and back. Push the shoulders away from the ears. Telescope the head forward. Even start to look forward more towards the top of the mat. Allowing the pubic bone and the throat to move away from each other. Big inhale and exhale through the mouth. Fold forward. Inhale, slide up halfway. Lengthen the front body. Exhale, curl and squeeze the front body. Inhale, stretch the front body. Last time exhaling, round the back. Push your feet down and isometrically apart to rise up slowly to standing. Circle the arms, reaching up, looking up. Exhale, arms float down lazy. The skin is so heavy, the muscles are so heavy, the bones are so heavy. Good. And then with slitted eyes, heavy eyelids, start to shift and rock your weight from your left foot to your right foot, back and forth. And then it's almost like you're at a concert, right? You're listening to music and you can feel it, and you just let your body sway from left to right. And then let it turn into a side bend. So I'll show you from the back. All the weight's on my left leg, but my upper body's leaning to the right. My arms are just hanging. And then my left foot pushes me over. The weight shifts to my right leg, and the upper body leans over the left. So that's generally the idea of what I want you to do, but you can do any kind of a side bending, shifting, rocking that you want. And let it start to come into a twist of sorts where you push and twist your body open one way, and then you soften your knees and you push and it twists your body open the other way. And it's a slow motion, really heavy and lazy. And you can feel the weight of your skin resting on the muscle, and the muscles are heavy. So heavy, and they rest on the bones, and the bones are so heavy. And come back to center. Orient yourself upright. Find a fixed, steady point straight in front of you, and then lift the heels and lower them. Very easy and soft. Repeat that. Keep going. So keep going, lifting the heels and then lowering them. And the movement can start to get a little bigger, maybe a little like you're on a swing. But you're not going too fast. You know how you get too high and you're like, I get to that point where it's like, well, it's in my belly, and it's like it stopped being like so great, and it started to feel like a little So stay out of that place and stay on that lazy swing action, rocking forward, rocking back. And then you can let your arms start to move with this rocking. And the torso can start to fold. So it's like a little chair pose. Your arms swing behind you as you fold. So your torso leans forward, your arms swing back, you're on your heels. Then you come more upright and your heels lift, your arms swing in front of you. And you sit into the chair, fronts of the feet lift, arms swing behind you. Standing up any amount, heels lift, arms in front of you. And then just let that, when you get the basic idea of it, just let it happen. And then the arms have their own momentum, like each arm is on its own swing and each foot is on its own rocker in a rocking chair. Get the movement a little bigger if it feels good. And you might even take like that bigger inhale as you go up and as you let go and fold. You don't have to do a big shushing exhale or a big audible exhale each time, just when it feels like it wants to come in. And we'll meet in the forward fold with the legs nice and wide and the elbow frame and the shifting and the rocking from side to side. And then when you're ready, the knees and the feet can turn out so it's more of an inner thigh stretch. Shift forward and back, rocking. That elbow frame, if you're close to the floor, the elbow frame might move closer to your feet behind you a little bit. So the spine is rounded, the neck is hanging, the neck is long. All the weight's in the legs.
And just before it gets to be too much, push the hands and the feet down into the floor. Point your feet more straight ahead. Walk out to dog pose. And my dog is in the way, so let's try to adjust here. Move however you want in your dog pose. Notice how it is to work a little bit in the pose, straighter arms, straighter legs, but to carry with you that feeling of ease and softness. And let's go for a calf stretch. So we'll come into a plank, bend one knee, push back through the other heel. And you can certainly do that with the bent knee on the floor. It's up to you. So to get a little bit better of a stretch, the butt might start to lift up here as you push back through that straight leg heel. Hands are pushing forward and away. If you're not alternating sides, try to do one more time on each side. If you've been going back and forth, that's great. Whatever pace you want. Good. And we'll come down to your hands and knees, pad under the knees, and take the right foot forward. And widen the front foot towards the edge of the mat. Turn the foot and the knee out and tip the knee out like a Baddha Konasana. And if you want a little bit more stretch sensation, you can lift that back knee and take a longer stance. And then the pelvis moves a little bit towards the floor. If you feel it in the groin or in the hip crease, that back knee and foot need to push down. Don't let your pelvis sink so much. And turn your upper body towards your front leg. You can even use that right hand to traction and move the right thigh bone away from the hip socket, even rolling it externally, rolling the top of the skin at the top of the thigh, roll it towards the outer thigh. Ankle is strong. That outer ankle bone is not on the floor. We worked on that Wednesday. And finally, push down into the back leg and the bottom arm so you can twist open. Top arm reaching up. And if you want, you can come to a flat front foot, tuck those back toes under, lift the back knee, and then you're in that high lunge variation of this. Once you're there, if you feel secure, you can roll to the outer heel of the front foot. And then look towards the floor, orient the whole body so to be straight ahead, and step back to downward dog or table. And do a little cat-cow there in table. And then shift forward to hands and knees. Now the left foot comes forward. It's nice and wide on your mat. And the leg turns out slightly, knee turns out, foot turns out. And turn the upper body towards the front leg. Lengthen the stance if you'd like, but be careful. We're not looking to stretch the hip crease. So don't sink too far if you're flexible. You can rock and shift here. Can lengthen the left thigh bone away from the hip in the direction of the knee. Roll the skin of the left thigh, the top of the thigh, away from you. External rotation. Ankle is rigid. And then we push into that bottom arm, twist open towards the ceiling. The bottom arms are like side plank. Top arm is straight up. You could even look up. chest turns open, just enjoy the breath. And some of you might want to lift that back knee and take an easy variation here of that high lunge, maybe shifting, rocking. Great. And when you're ready, look towards the floor, face the floor, and step back to dog or table. And we'll join up in plank, lower to the knees, and then knees, chest, and chin. So we'll bend the elbows, knees, chest, and chin touching the floor. Sorry, Maisie. And then slide forward into Sphinx. Get rid of the blanket if it's in the way. And just hang out here in Sphinx in the most relaxed way possible. Let the shoulders come up around the ears. Just kind of really snuggle into your mat. Right, we're not trying to push away from it. We're just letting go into it. And if that doesn't feel good on the low back and you don't feel like doing a lot of efforting through the abdominals, or if you have spondylolisthesis, something like that, you just take your blanket, put it under your belly button's right on top of it. And now you can hang out with some support. Let's see if you can get even closer to your mat. Really snuggle in. Fingers are spread wide, the most surface area possible, touching the mat. And then we'll use the exhale to push down into the hands and feel the spine lift up so the shoulders come a little bit away from the ears. And then feel the breath moving the spine. Hi, Maisie. Maisie really wants to be in the sunbeam here. She's like, why can't you share the mat? You want me to share the mat? You're going to have this part here. Okay, and we'll interlace the fingers and elbows just in front of the shoulders, elbows no wider than the shoulders, sink down. As you rest and relax into this shape, the shoulders come up around the ears, and then bow in, look towards the navel, push down through the forearms, and the shoulders move away from the ears. We'll just do this nice and softly a few times, letting your body snuggle up to the mat, and then gently pushing it away. Bowing in. As the navel lifts, the back of the neck stretches. And then you sink down. And chin lifts and pulls forward. One of these positions might feel better, or you might want to alternate, or you might feel like, okay, well, I'm going to push into my forearms, push into my knees, and then lift up to a forearm plank. And even as you effort in this shape, let it be the minimum. Still let this skin relax and be heavy, and let the muscles rest on the bones. And then even imagine the skin and the muscles disappearing and the bones are just holding you up. Just kind of arranging the skeleton in place here. It's pretty hard to pretend there's no work here. And then we walk the knees forward one at a time and come into the child's pose. Let your arms go by your sides. Hold onto the soles of your feet, making that closed loop of energy. Shoulders widen and droop and hang towards the floor. Without coming out of child's pose, lift the shoulders as high as you can. They pull towards the ceiling. They move away from the ears. Press into your shins and see if it seems feasible to just come up using your back muscles. If it doesn't, push the hands into the floor to come upright. Offset your butt, swing your legs around, and we'll take a wide-legged position, Upavishta Konasana. You're pointing the feet. Hands press into the floor. Fingertips press into the floor behind you. And then press into those fingertips. Feel the spine lift softly, easily. Point your feet so that you're stretching the inner thighs as more, at least equal to the hamstrings. And close your eyes, feel your breath here. Take your right hand forward and twist to your left with your ribs, gradually inviting the sternum to line up with the inner leg line as the navel points straight ahead. So the navel's going to have to sort of pretend it's going to the right as the ribs twist left. Reach out long through that right leg, anchoring it deeply to the floor. And once you're in the shape, as far as you're going to go today, that's good enough. You could even back off 5%. And then just feel the breath in the pose. Anywhere that's uncomfortable, widen that area, breathe into it. Okay, and then we'll soften back to center, switch sides. Now you're twisting right with the ribs and left with the navel to protect your sacrum. And that left leg has to anchor, reach out long. And you'll notice that the whole body doesn't need to do the pose. There's particular points of action, effort that happens, but then large swaths of your body are at ease. And once you have the shape of the pose as far as you're going today, you could even back off 5 to 10%. It's a breathing shape. And we'll come back to center. Hook your hands on the inside of the knee pit, right where the knee bends. Manually bend the knees. The soles of the feet come together. And if you're off your mat, you can come back so that your feet are on the mat. Hands come behind you. And this is a variation of reverse plank. So first we'll just sink and relax and soften. And when we do that, the spine rounds and the shoulders come up around the ears. A little bend to the elbow. Start to press the hands into the floor so you feel the shoulders draw back away from the ears. It all just comes from the pushing down action. Shoulders roll back, shoulder blades narrow. And then once you have that lift of the chest, the front body feels long. Press the heels into one another and then push the heels or the outer heel into the floor and lift the pelvis up. You might be lifting 1 inch, you might be lifting a foot, doesn't matter. Inhale, lift up by pushing down with the hands and the heels. Exhale, lower down. Good. And then we'll come back to vertical seat, and a little caterpillar has found its way into our house. And now Maisie's not at all sure how she feels about that. Good girl. It's made her have to sit up. She gets a little, she's a little with her breathing out through her nose. Rock from side to side. One knee lifts, the other one gets close to the floor. And when you lean left, that right knee is high, the left knee is down. That if you're holding onto your shins or your ankles, that left elbow can kind of dig into the inner thigh muscle. Switch sides and let that, and as you lean to the right, that left buttock's completely off the floor. The outer right leg is on the floor, and that elbow just pushes right in to that adductor inner thigh muscle. And you can linger if you want, and you just use the weight of your body to press into the inner thighs. And stay as long as you want on this side, leaning into that inner thigh, going all the way up to the outer knee. And if you want to work higher up the adductor, you might bring that right hand up close to the chin in a fist, and then the other hand wraps on top, just like you're doing a twist. And you lean the elbow into the inner thigh muscles. Just use your body weight. Even come down to the inner calf. And if you want to twist open, it's totally unnecessary, but it kind of invites, it's a feeling like, oh, I could twist left as my right elbow digs into my right calf. If you feel anything at all negative in your sacrum, don't do that. We're not active in these poses here. When you're passive, I'm really moderate and very, very careful with twists. Okay, and then we come back up to Baddha Konasana. Sit upright and feel. And let's do the second side. So we'll lean over to the left leg. The right knee is up, the right buttock is up. And you can just rest, letting the elbow lean into the thigh. And just wait. Just wait. Wait to feel something. You don't have to create it. And notice where your attention goes. I have a little vein on my left foot, and I can see my heartbeat. I can see the vein move. So adjusting your position, shifting whenever you like, working all the way down towards the outer knee, up towards the groin. It's a long time to spend on these inner thighs. They're muscles that hold us together, and they tend to grip because of the stuff that's going on in the world. It's a little grip to the first chakra, the pelvic floor. Okay, so after you've done that, we'll come to lying on your back and use a little bent, knees are bent, feet are on the floor, please, and you use a little push-pull with your feet to create an arching and a flattening. And it's so slow and so lazy, so nice and mild. And I'm spending a nice long time generating that arch. That feels so good. And for some of you, you'll take a nice long time generating the flattening, and that can feel so good. You might just rock between the two. That's fine too. Okay. Then push into your left foot so the right one floats up, and allow yourself to roll a bit to your right and come into a happy baby, really rolling to the right. So my left buttock is 100% off the floor. So when we come into this happy baby, we don't want to try to stay square. We'll just throw the sacrum out. So then you can unbend the knee and then re-straighten. Here the blocks are really helpful so that the thigh and the knee can rest on the floor or a block or some surface. You can put the pillow under there. That might work too. And you don't have to straighten the leg all the way. Certainly not. It's just a groin release. So the left knee might start to fall too much. You can let that stand a little bit upright, even though the buttock is still off the floor. And if you want a little more energy surging through here, this is best if the right knee's on the floor. If it's on the block, it's a little question mark around that. But if the right knee is down, then you can lift that left foot off the floor and you could straighten the left leg. You can kind of play with where that leg is in space, exploring various sensations, but keeping the sensation out of the front of the hip. So it has to stay fairly high off the floor. Maybe that leg swoops around, left leg swoops around to meet the right. Maybe it opens. Maybe it goes straight up. And maybe it lengthens away, like sort of a splits while you're lying down on the floor relaxing. Point that right foot instead of flexing the ankle. Point the left foot if it's floating, and reach out through the inner leg on both sides. Okay, the left knee will be the first one to bend. Let that foot root firmly to the floor. Rebend the right knee if it's straight, and then just let go of the heel. Push into the left foot to recenter your hips. Do a little cat-cow just to make sure that everything's okay. And then when you're ready, push into the right foot. Let left foot floats up. You can grab the heel. I'm grabbing the heel from the inside, which kind of helps this variation. There's other variations, but try holding it from the inside. Move stuff out of your way if you need to. So you can unbend left knee. Right foot still firmly rooted on the floor, and the right buttock is fully lifted. And if that left knee is fairly rooted, you can push into that right foot and calibrate the pelvis so the sensation is directed to the muscles of the inner thigh and leg and buttock and away from the joint. Maybe that right foot floats up, and this should feel like it's out of the hips joints, right? Could be in the hip muscles, not in the hip joints, and explore movement with that right leg. And then maybe you end up in some variation of the split, some sort of wide-legged, long position. Both feet are pointed, reaching away from one another. Right leg is getting longer and longer. Left leg's getting longer and longer. And the belly is firm and the right foot's floating. It's not on the floor. And if you can't support the weight of it, don't try this variation. Just bend the knee foot to the floor. You're getting a lot of value there. Feel the breath. And on your next exhale, you'll bend that right knee and then push it into the floor to help bring yourself upright. Let go of the left heel. Come back to lying on your back. Square and center, knees bent, feet on the floor. A little push-pull through the feet, creating your pelvic tilt. And then we'll open the knees into Baddha Konasana. And here's where knees are really helpful. Blocks are really helpful. Sorry, Maisie. So that they create an end point. So the nervous system's like, well, I don't have to go, I don't know where, like the body wants to know where it is in space. And it's like fish that hang around the coral reef. It's like, we're going to hang out by this structure because it's safe here. So especially when we want to release the groins and the pelvic floor, the inner thighs, even if you're like, well, I want it to open, but then they're just hanging in space. Why would the body open without some sense of safety or end limit? So I encourage you to use whatever you have there, appropriate height for you as the end point. And then for several minutes, we're going to open and close the knees as slowly as you can. And you know you're going slowly enough when you get this trembling and shaking through the inner thighs. And we want to encourage that. So if you get to a point where you feel the trembling, the shaking, the letting go through the groin, you can hover there. You don't have to stay with the open and close. You can hover at that height. And then just let the movement, let the shake come in, relax, release into it. And sometimes you get like a big vibration or flapping, like a kind of rhythmic release that happens through the hips. And this can be quite nice to allow yourself to experience. And if it subsides, you can close the knees a little more if you're still on your way up and find a new limit, a new height, and allow this vibration to come in. And let yourself be captivated by the vibration, the shaking, the release. And if it's not happening, you just go even more slowly.
little part of you might notice digestive sounds, little growls in the digestive system. So good. As you're out of fight or flight, you're in that rest and digest, you might notice the breath is slow, very easy. There's so much space around how relaxed the breath is. As the knees come higher, the soles of the feet have to separate. If you're getting cold, you cover yourself with the blanket. You could put it behind the head. So I just finished my first wave of just closing the legs once. Now I'm going to start to open them back up nice and slowly again. Skin is heavy. Muscles are heavy, resting on the bone. Bones are heavy. It's different on the way down. Notice the sigh that comes with completion of a round. And my knees were so happy. Like, where's those blocks? Where are they? There they are. Phew. Somewhere to land, somewhere to rest. So I encourage you to do this opening and closing of the knees for several more minutes. It's really nice if you do it as a 5-minute practice. And might also be a good point to take legs up the wall or to simply rest here in your Shavasana. If you need more support for your sacrum, we have that strap. So you'd put the loop over your head, slide it down to the sacrum, and then hook it around your feet so that you're in a supported bound angle pose here. It's especially helpful if you've got really short hamstrings or very tight hips to use that strap in that way.
If you're continuing with the opening and closing of the thighs, stay focused on that. If you've decided to rest in your stillness here, cover yourself with your blanket so you don't get cold. I'm wearing 2 layers today. Cooling practice, calming practice. We get chilly, which is good. It means you're in that rest and digest. That's why we sleep with covers usually. And then the pillow's handy. You can rest it right on the tummy. That sigh comes in. Notice that it's a different kind of sigh. The belly moved in with that exhale, and the weight of the arms can rest on the pillow. A gentle pressure on the belly area, triggering this deep, deep rest that you need. Feel the weight of your body on the floor. Your skin is heavy, muscles are heavy, and the bones are even heavier. Notice how slow the breath rate is. Feel the skin as it reaches and touches the clothes.
skin against the floor, your props. Maybe a slight feeling of the movement of air across the body from air conditioner or a fan, or even just the breath as it enters the nostrils and leaves the nostrils. Slowly reach out through the arms and legs. If you're using the strap, unhook the loop. Your body knows how it wants to stretch. Just let it. Bend the knees to the chest. Roll to your side. And sit up slowly. Here you are again, sitting cross-legged, upright. At no age. You're in the eternal, vast present moment. Hands at the third eye in prayer position. From my vastness to your vastness, we honor and see each other. Namaste.